Welcome to Elation. Hi, Dawn. How are you?
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Good, good. It's good to see you. It's been a minute. Today I wanted to sit here and talk about a couple things going on in your life, which I know you work really hard, so we can just get off and start talking about work. I know you really have kind of termed or created the term Concierge Realtor, and why don't you explain a little bit about how you feel real estate's changed through COVID and how you created this little niche for yourself?
So exactly during COVID, it started out. We all had to get creative about how we were going to do business because people couldn't be together and going to show houses and stuff like that. And I started holding meetings out in my backyard. Actually, I like put up a canopy and everything. Had a few clients pee behind the flower pots and stuff like that because they didn't want to go in my house. But it just kind of happened. You had to be a lot more creative and a lot more available to people to do there. And it ended up that it worked out a lot easier, and that the easier that I could make the process on my clients, the easier it was for them to move forward, which is, the name of the game is get everybody to the table at the closing.
Right.
So, and I had some other clients, they traveled a lot or they had second homes and they decided to stay at that home. One was Aspen. I mean, who wouldn't want to be in Aspen instead of New Orleans during COVID?
Right.
So, and they needed some work done on the house. And I said, I can manage that for you. It's easy enough. We get a lockbox, I let them in, let them out. And then they were like, this is awesome. I couldn't have done this without you. And to me, it was a few phone calls, text messages, and a lockbox.
Right.
But I have a construction background, so I'm used to that. I know what to check for. I know how to vet people. I've got a phone of people that I can refer for things. So, and then I realized that some of those things are really hard for other people to do.
Right.
Even just to make the decision or how to do it or what to even tell the contractor or whatever it is, if it's a roofer, if it's what to do with their house. So as my business grew, it was interesting because that year, in fact, that was the year that you bought your house. And I realized that by doing more of that kind of accommodating work from my clients resulted in more sales.
Right.
And higher average sale.
Well, I would say as a whole, concierge or the whole helping situation has gone away since COVID because everybody has kind of gone in their own corners and has dumbed down their extra help. So like the concierge desk at the hotel doesn't do as much for you as it used to do because they just don't. They haven't expanded into that. They shrunk
Right.
that.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of did the opposite. You expanded that market to yourself.
Well, I think the hotel business doesn't really make that much money on what else the concierge does. Higher level service, the concierge makes the money.
Right.
And that's a whole different thing about the employment sector and post-COVID
Well, yeah,
and all of
but
that.
I just feel like the whole
but you're
the
right.
client,
People
the
have stopped.
customer, caring.
There's a lot of things that are less now because of COVID. Integrity is one.
Right.
What you do when nobody's looking. That's part of my concierge branding is that, I'm always going to do everything right. I'm always going to do whatever the best that I can do or get you the best deal on my client's behalf. And it extends beyond, the house. It's everything. It's, a lender or this or that or wiring money and funds and stuff and just guiding them through the process. And a lot of realtors, you're right, they don't do that anymore. A lot of realtors got into real estate during COVID.
Right.
And they were not trained because they were just by themselves.
Right.
They're not business people. They probably came from another profession. My previous profession, being as a hospitality consultant, was a good feeder for a skill set for real estate. A lot of other people, maybe not.
Right.
And so now, and even, I'll even say the seasoned realtors in the area are not providing the service that they used to provide.
Right.
They're depending on social media and print ads in a newspaper instead of talking to their clients. And a lot of people have gotten away from talking to people. They want to do everything by email or text. And I can tell you, I can pick up the phone, whether I'm calling another agent or calling a client or anybody, I'm going to get more information out of them by talking to them than I could possibly get from just texting or, email and that sort of thing.
Right. Well, I think it's great. I mean, anything that you can do to offer extra things to your clients. I mean, and I'm sure even people got hurt on that side too because they're being led into these bad deals by people who are just trying to get the commissions, not actually caring about the client and things that move forward. And I mean, I can tell you personally, from us doing business together, that you care more about what happens to the long term of your client than the actual commission number. So that I feel like that's a very important thing too.
And making sure that it's a good deal, that the deal is good. The inspections. Remember,
Right.
I had to get a plumber to pull a toilet off the wall here
Right.
but we needed to look, and then that's how we found the clean out that was sitting under some equipment out there.
Right.
But it's that sort of thing, and any other agent, I think, would be less inclined to really push the envelope
Absolutely.
that far.
No, and tell me what I needed to do because I absolutely did not know I was buying an old building like this and knowing every little detail of what to look at.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the deals that you've done in New Orleans that excite you? Things that you were elated to be a part of?
Well, your deal.
Well, we can talk about that one, but I'm sure there was some bigger deals in Orleans Parish that.
Yeah, I've had some really cool things happen.
I know you've done some historic stuff.
Yeah, and I just sit there and go, I can't believe I did this. Like, it was a lot of hard work. So one that I had was I had this historic mansion that was owned by a woman who was in a memory care facility. And she had previously run this as a bed and breakfast. And the joke among the family was that she really only rented it out to make money to do repairs. Like, she really was not in the bed and breakfast space, but that was a moneymaker for her. So she's in memory care. Her two daughters were her curators at the time. And one was in San Francisco, so had time zone issues. There was a third brother in Japan. He didn't enter the picture till later, but that just made things even more messy. And then the mom dies. And we had once the mom passed away, we were able to lower the price. And I was doing a lot of social media. It's this old Victorian Italianate mansion, getting into all these Facebook groups and stuff like that, just really trying to cast my net really wide and find somebody to buy this place. Well, lo and behold, we get a TV court judge who is interested in it. And he does historic renovations. And he told us this whole thing. He gave us a low offer, but he said, I'm not going to ask for anything. I know exactly what I need to do here. The whole song and dance.
Right.
And he does that. The girls and the attorney accept the offer. And then one of the daughters calls me from San Francisco and said, you know what? I couldn't afford it at the other price, but I can at this price. She said, can I put in an offer? And that way, if the first offer falls apart, I can be next in line. And I said, you absolutely can. It has to be equal to the other offer in every way possible. And that way they can't turn it down. So that's what happened. Well, the judge walked. He came back and wanted $200,000 in repairs. And we said, no, we were clear from the beginning.
Right.
That
this is what it was, right?
Yeah. So the daughter's offer becomes valid, and I'm representing her. So now I'm representing her as her mother's executor now, the other sister, and I'm representing her as a buyer. And then we've got Tokyo over here, who now they say the two sisters didn't want to tell him who the backup buyer was. So I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm on a TV court series. So then we had issues, so financing, and everything was going great, except the sister, not the buyer, refused to let the title of the building go into her name for even 1 second. And on top of that, we had a problem with the bed and breakfast license because there's only one allowed per block face. And if something happened and we didn't get this license transferred, then somebody else on the block could grab it, and then it couldn't be a bed and breakfast. So we have all that swirling around. And so I find a lender that will, Mickey Spencer, the guru,
Yeah.
that will let her take her share as a credit on a closing statement and normally it would pass to the 3 siblings and then she buys them out. Well, they wouldn't allow that to happen. So by doing it the way we did it, the bank was able to pay the other people and she was able to buy it and walk away with a couple $100,000 in cash to do the renovations that she needed to do.
Wow.
And then the license was an issue. So I started digging around and I ended up, I don't know, Orleans Parish Records Department. No, the state assessor, and found an old LLC that the mom had created like in 1990, and then she dissolved it in like 1995. So I asked the attorney handling her estate, I'm like, can we reactivate this? Because it says DBA, the name of the bed and breakfast, that matched what was on the license. And he was like, yep, we can totally do that. We'll reactivate it, and then when we sell it, we sell the LLC with it, and we just change out the name of the members. That way the license transfers to the daughter.
Right. Wow.
So that's what we did.
Wow.
So yeah,
It's all in the paperwork.
yeah, I was pretty excited about that one. And I
Wow.
was kind of like more towards the beginning of my career. And that was another thing where I said, no other agent's going to do all this.
No.
And I questioned myself sometimes, am I wasting time on this? Like, is this ever going to get to the table? But it wasn't, unless I tried to do every possible thing that I could do.
Right.
And so I did it, and it paid off. And it's still one of my proudest sales that I did, because the harder they are, the more I like them.
Right.
And so now I'm friends with the daughter. I actually helped her. So at the time when I had this listed, the former, we're not allowed to say slave quarter, but it's not, what is it, Creole townhouse dependency, which was the old kitchen and stables for the house,
Right.
had been sold off in 1952. So those people came to me and I listed it, but at the time the daughter couldn't afford both. But I kept in contact with both of them, and when the new buyers were ready to sell, they came to me, I went to her, and I was able to broker the deal to sell her that the old slave quarter.
Right.
So now the property's put back historically the way that it was before, and she made that more of the bed and breakfast.
Wow, that's awesome.
So it was pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
No, well, and that's how you know that your extra effort was worth it, because then you get your repeat business, because they don't want to go anywhere else.
Right.
I mean,
right.
I wouldn't call anybody else, so.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So let's talk about a little bit about this deal. I know I was looking for a building. I had bought a building on Jefferson Highway that just was not the right building for me. And I picked up the phone and called you, and Lord behold, we end up stumbling into the most perfect building I could have ever imagined.
That didn't even have a sign on it.
That didn't even have a sign on it.
Yeah, that was a CMU building, and if it had a studio, all the better. And I started digging around, and I'm like, wait a minute, this building, and I knew it because I used to have the warehouse down the street, so
Right.
I knew the guy that was here did a lot of video work and audio and video production. So, however, he was difficult, wasn't he?
He was difficult. I was getting ready to ask. So how did the deal go? Do you want to explain?
Oh, he said no to everything.
Uh-huh.
They asked for pre-qualification, and I called the agent and I said, this buyer's more qualified than your seller, trust me. And they were like, oh. So I pulled a few real estate transactions that your family had done that showed that they were more than able to do this deal. And then, I don't know if you remember, but he was problematic at every turn, like from when we could see it,
Right.
and what we could see.
Well,
and he kept
remember
rooms locked.
Yeah, we had multiple rooms locked that we couldn't get into. And I always question, what's on the other side of that door? Because there's like 4 rooms we couldn't get into.
Yeah.
And
then when we did inspections, he tells us, and the poor agent is saying, Dawn, I'm just telling you what he's saying. I don't agree with him, but I have to tell you what he's saying. He told us during inspections that we had to not take pictures of any of the computer screens, or not desktop computers, desktops, because he might have confidential client information
Right.
on those. And I told his agent, I said, you know what? You tell him that it's his liability of confidentiality with his clients.
Right.
We have in our contract that we can do inspections, and we're coming in to do inspections. We don't care about his clients.
Right.
But that's up to him. So it's his responsibility to cover the desks or turn off the screens and do all of that. And he was like, he's not going to be happy. I'm like, neither are we're already not happy. But we did it. And then remember, he wouldn't let us go over. Only the inspector could go look.
Yeah, that's right. We couldn't be there during the inspection.
Yeah.
That's right.
And then we couldn't find the plumbing clean out, and we couldn't see one of the lines. And so they had a wall toilet. And I set up for that to happen, and somebody didn't show up, and it didn't happen.
Right.
So then I came back out. It was the Tuesday morning after Memorial Day, 8 a.m. with the plumber and the videographer and all that. Nobody was happy. And I told him, I said, well, you didn't make it happen on Friday, so this is the only time we're all available. But we got it done.
No, 100%. No, and it was, certain things are meant to be, and it just, this building has been exactly what I needed to kickstart what was in my head, which isn't always easy to get out. So I really appreciate all the effort and
and it's in a prime location.
Oh yeah,
I mean you cannot.
It's perfect. And what's funny enough is that the seller has come by multiple times.
Really?
Well, the first time is I had called him because there was some like awards that I found that were like his dad's, and I said, "Hey, you want to come pick him?" Oh yeah, I'd love to, And then he came and he walked around and FaceTiming his friend. He was like, "Man, this place is amazing," and we sold it to the best guy ever,
That's awesome.
Because I told him, I was like, "Look, I'm not stepping on your dad's legacy. We're gonna embrace it and upgrade it and keep using it." So he's excited about it, But anyway, so
but I think people are stopping. They're not referring it to the burning building anymore. Mm-hmm. It's now Elation. Yeah. That Elation place. Mm-hmm. That looks cool.
Yeah. Everybody wonders what goes on in this place. But, so on the elation topic, let's talk about what brings elation to you in your life.
I would say accomplishment. Like we were talking about putting together a complicated deal. I think really actually for me is going out of my way to do something for other people that they don't expect me to do. And that I have this little like karma thing going where I feel like the more I put out there, the more that's going to come back to me. And it seems to really work. But and what I realize though is I'm not doing it just to get something back. It really makes me feel good.
Right.
So just different things for people, things that I can do. Oh, this just happened. There's a woman here in New Orleans, pretty famous. Her name's Phyllis Taylor. Her husband had Taylor Energy. She does a lot of work with education. She does real estate development. She has her own real estate agent that she already used, but she let me do a deal for her because just of how we met and how it worked out. Well, she's renovating this old Circle Bar on St. Charles Avenue. And I've heard about it, and she just calls it, my old bar, and she's making it into apartments. Well, I didn't even know that she was having issues with it, with the HDLC. And I happened to be researching another building's history, and I came across a photograph from 1915 that shows her building and some old cars outside and then some buildings next to it. And I sent it to her, and I said, you've probably already seen this, but in case you haven't, I thought you'd like to have it. Well, she came right back and said, I am so thrilled to have this, and let me tell you why. She said, we've been having problems because it looks like this wall has been chopped off the building, and they are holding me up saying that they have to see what it was. It's got to be brought back the way it was, and they were thinking it may have been like a window or something like that, and they kept saying, but it's structurally integral to the building. It couldn't have been. So They were having this back and forth. And the picture that I sent shows that there was a building attached to it that was since demolished. So there was never anything there except a party wall. So now she's got that and she can move forward with it.
That's awesome.
And she's going to frame it and put it in the in like the archives of when you see what the building used to be.
That's awesome.
There's just one little thing, and I took a minute to do it, and it ended up being really valuable to somebody else. So you just never know.
Yeah, taking that little extra time
makes me feel good. Like that makes me feel like I'm being a good person, and I'm being like, I know I'm doing better than what I normally would have done, and that makes me feel that's elation. It's like excitement and happiness at the same time. Like
Right.
a little element of surprise too, maybe.
Right.
That
Well, it should be Dawnne Keeney, life's concierge.
I've had people tell me before, way back in the day, somebody said, you need to start a company called Dawn Does, and you just do it. And so every once in a while something happens and somebody will post Dawn Does. I'm like, oh, okay.
That's funny. Awesome. Well, good. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about where we can find you on social media, if people want to look for you, where they can find you at work, and things like that.
So I'm an agent with Berkshire Hathaway United Properties here in New Orleans. And because my name is spelled Dawnne, if anybody spells it right, they can find me. I've got a Berkshire site that, just has the regular real estate stuff on it. But on social media, I am Delta Dawn, Dawnne. That got created at a table at Galatoire's like 20 years ago. But it works because I tell people Delta Dawn and they're like, oh my gosh, it's great. And that's like my Venmo too. So I'm not looking for money, but yeah, that's why I tell people that they're like, oh, I can find it. And then on Facebook, I'm, Dawnne Keeney, and I have a realtor page and all of that. But yeah, I think, just people find me. My business is all referral. So I am doing some print now because I have a lot of listings, but I just went on a listing appointment last week. Somebody referred me from Dallas. So
nice.
That felt good.
There you go.
Yeah, that felt good.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
So
great.
anybody buying or selling wants to come live in New Orleans, I will find it. I've helped people from out of town that didn't even see their unit until they closed.
Well, there you go.
And they were like, this is perfect. I mean, they saw pictures and all. I just did a good job of representing it and stuff like that. So
awesome.
yeah.
Great.
I
Well,
love
thanks for joining us today. And
thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. And welcome to Elation.